Okay, so for this, so for this particular exercise, you're going to need some tools, and we're basically going to do some rapid drawing based on what you see. So the tools you need are these like chisel tip markers. So you can see how on this side it is this like kind of flat edge, and the other side is sharp. And I have 3 different colors that you really need, and the black one's optional. So you have 30% gray, 60% gray, and 80% gray. They sell them in cool and warm grays, so it's up to you how you want to, which gray you want to pick. You can get them in a set from Blake's. They usually come in a box like this, in a set like this. And for us, you really only need 3, so you can buy them individually if you actually go to a store. So it really depends on what your preference is. And why I picked 30, 60, and 80, it's just so that we have a light gray, medium gray, and a dark gray. Technically, the numbers can be different. You can do 20, 50, and 70. I just happen to like kind of pick these 3. So you need a Sharpie, you need a kind of a fin marker as well, black marker as well, and a pencil. Okay, so I'm gonna do this little drawing right here with the phone. So it's just gonna show you on the screen right here for a second, and you can see how like this. Usually it shouldn't take too much effort to draw this, but to draw it really quickly, there's a couple things you shouldn't really think about. One is think about the size, right? Size of the canvas. So what shape is it? If your paper is a little wider, you probably want to kind of identify, well, what is the ratio of the canvas? And then you want to start looking at corners or objects for identifying where things are. So I'm just going to say corners for now. So for example, this is a corner, this is a corner, this is a corner, and this is a corner. Now, why is that important? Because it allows me to kind of roughly figure out where along the canvas do I actually need to line things up. And after that, you try to draw straight lines to figure out, what the general shape is. You make it into a box, right? And then you eventually add in the curves. So that's what we're going to do right now. So just starting out with the pencil. I'm going to just identify exactly what the ratio is. So here, most likely, it's a little less. So it's a little more square-like. So I'm just going to draw a line and then identify that I'm not using this portion. Maybe, and then the next thing is to kind of identify, well, when we're looking back at this particular drawing, this corner right here is about a little more than a third of the way. So exactly for us, it's exactly a third of the way as well. So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So maybe a little more. And then let's identify the other corner, which is a little bit, maybe also a little bit over a third. So somewhere like here. And that bottom corner is going to be somewhere right down here. I think it's about almost like half. So now once I have that, I can kind of start to like draw lines to kind of connect the corners. Right. Also, now I can like kind of create that box on the film. it's okay that it's not perfectly drawn, because with the pencil, what you're really doing is you're quickly just drawing the framework of things. And when you have the pen, you can kind of go back and make sure that everything is correct. So just to reiterate, the pencil is more just to kind of get the general shape um, of where things are. So you got the little antenna um, right here. You got a couple buttons, right? I think this is an iPhone 6. Rounding the corners here, and then drawing in the screen. Now, I'm trying not to be super, super careful about like where everything is, because I know that I'm going to go over again with the marker. So this is just really about kind of quick, loose things, getting them in generally in this right shape. Okay, so I've got this. So now I can kind of go in with my Sharpie marker, right? And I can see if I really want to just kind of mark out the edges of my phone. Well, the reason why I want to kind of like mark it like this is because like having slightly different line weights makes the object pop. So later on, when we're drawing the inside, we're going to use a slightly thinner marker, because the thinner marker will kind of help you flesh out the details a little easier than this thicker marker. And don't forget, like this paper, when you're drawing, is you can move it. For some people, drawing straight lines from a particular angle is much harder. So rotate the paper, whichever angle that helps you the most. So now I'm done with the Sharpie. I got this like object that's popping out already, so I can kind of quickly come in here with a pen, do some more close-up details of the phone. And once again, it's not really about perfection. It's about drawing it quickly. See if you can just add enough details in there to convey the shape and form of this phone. Remember, these are supposed to be 5-minute drawings, so don't spend too much time drawing in all the details, otherwise you'll run out of time. Okay, so I think I have most of everything in here already, most. And now we can kind of get to the more interesting stuff. So just let me put in a couple more of the plugs. In fact, I actually don't really need to draw the plugs or the holes to actually be able to do the next part. Next part, actually, let me draw. The next part is to kind of color them in. So we're using these markers to color it in. I'm actually thinking of using the black this time to kind of deal with certain details. So I'm not going to draw all the detail that's on the phone. Like I'm not going to draw every single logo. So because I don't really need that to kind of convey that this is a phone. However, what I do need is some sort of highlights, shadows, and like midtones. So usually what I like to do is do this. It's almost like a paint by colors. So you identify what is dark, medium, and light. So you just look at your image, right? And then you say, okay, so I'm not going to touch this white area because it's just bright. So, and I'm not going to color in the canvas, as well. However, there's a couple shades of gray right here. So there is probably like a dark gray along the edge, and maybe on the upper, I zoom in, upper side, maybe a medium. So M for medium. And then you might have a light somewhere. I'm not sure yet. So, and then here you can see there's slight differences between the two different grays too. So let's give it a try and see how this works. I might actually use dark right here. So, and then I'll just do light and medium on the side. Okay, so in this particular drawing, we know that the dark, let's just do the screen as dark, and just gonna color it in dark. So later on, you'll get a better idea of how to actually like use the angle to do textures, because you can see how it's actually creating these sort of lines and striations. It could look quite nice if depending on what you're using it for. So right now I'm just coloring it in to create this kind of dark area on the screen, right? And that's, I think that's about the extent. Well, the plug is a little dark, so I'll just put a little bit of darkness in there. See, earlier, you didn't really have to draw the detail. You can just dabble a little bit of dark here, and you can kind of tell it's a plug. Okay, got the plugs. So let's go to medium. So I think this side of the screen can be a little light. It can be medium too. Okay, and then what else is medium? Well, parts of the ring, right, is medium. And we talked about how like maybe the underside of the iPhone is also medium. And then here, this corner is kind of interesting. The shadow kind of goes like that. Yep. And then lastly, let's go with the light. This is the 30% gray, and it's kind of filling in all the other areas. And the watercolor should blend pretty nicely with each other. It just kind of works really, really well. And that is a 5-minute sketch on my iPhone, and you can kind of tell. It's not exactly the same, but it's good enough for a quick sketch. You can kind of tell that they're very similar in some ways.